The horizon's edge moved slowly through the massive docking bay. Captain Amy Martinez sat in her command chair, watching the alien station grow larger on the view screen. She had seen pictures before, but nothing prepared her for the real thing. The station was huge, bigger than any human city, and it belonged to species that Earth had only known about for 6 months. "Take it easy, Lisa," Amy said to her pilot. "Nice and smooth." Lisa Grant nodded, her hands steady on the controls. Behind Amy, Lieutenant Ben Hayes checked his tablet. "We're getting instructions from station control. They want us in docking port 7. That's in the lower section." "Lower section?" Amy turned to look at him. Ben shrugged. "Maybe that's just where they put newcomers." Ambassador Helen Brooks stepped onto the bridge. She wore her formal diplomatic clothes and looked nervous. This was humanity's first real meeting with the Galactic Council. Everything had to go right. "Are we ready?" Helen asked. Amy stood up. "We're docking now. Give us 10 minutes, then we'll head out together." The ship shook slightly as the docking clamps locked into place. Greg Palmer, the chief engineer, called up from the engine room. "We're secure, Captain." "All systems look good." Amy took a deep breath. "All right, everyone. Remember what we talked about. Stay calm, stay professional. We're here to make friends." The docking tunnel connected with a hiss. Amy led her crew to the airlock. Helen stood beside her, holding a data pad with prepared speeches. Ben and Lisa followed behind, while Greg stayed with the ship. The airlock door opened. 3 aliens stood waiting. They were tall, much taller than any human, with gray skin and faces that looked almost reptilian. They wore armor that seemed more decorative than functional, covered in symbols Amy didn't recognize. The one in front had more symbols than the others. "Humans," the lead alien said. His voice was deep and rough. "I am Commander Zekthor of the Keltharan Security Force. You will follow me." He didn't wait for a response. He just turned and walked away. The other 2 Keltharans stayed behind, watching the humans with what looked like amusement. Amy and her crew exchanged glances, but followed. The corridor was wide and tall, built for species bigger than humans. Other aliens moved past them. Some walking, some floating, some moving in ways Amy couldn't quite understand. Most of them looked at the humans with curiosity. A few looked at them with something that might have been contempt. Zekthor walked fast, and Amy had to hurry to keep up. They turned a corner, and the commander stopped suddenly. Amy nearly bumped into him. Without warning, Zekthor pushed her shoulder, hard. "You walk too slow," Zekthor said. "Move faster." Amy felt her jaw tighten. She looked up at the alien commander, forcing herself to stay calm. "We're moving as fast as we can." "Then you are weak," Zekthor replied. Ben stepped forward, his face angry. Amy raised her hand, stopping him. She kept her eyes on Zekthor. "We're here for a diplomatic mission. I would appreciate it if you didn't put your hands on me." The Keltharan commander laughed. It was not a friendly sound. The other 2 guards laughed with him. "Fine. Right 9. This is the galactic way, human," Zekthor said. "The strong move as they wish. The weak move aside. You will learn this." He turned and continued walking. Amy rubbed her shoulder where he had pushed her. It didn't really hurt, but the message was clear. Here, humans were considered weak. They walked for another 10 minutes through endless corridors. Finally, they reached a large chamber. The walls were made of some kind of smooth metal that seemed to glow from within. Dozens of aliens filled the space, all different shapes and sizes. Some stood in groups talking. Others sat at tables covered with food and drinks that looked nothing like anything from Earth. "These are your assigned quarters," Zekthor said, pointing to a door on the far side of the chamber. "You will stay there until the council meeting tomorrow." Helen stepped forward. "Excuse me, Commander, but we were told we would have quarters in the diplomatic section." A different alien approached. This one was smaller, with blue skin and multiple eyes arranged around its head. "I am Administrator Velkan," it said in a softer voice. "Quarters are assigned by rank. Your species has no rank yet in the council. These quarters are appropriate." "These are servant quarters," Helen said, trying to keep her voice diplomatic but firm. "Yes," Velkan replied simply. "Until the council votes on your membership, this is where you belong." On Ramen, Amy could see Helen's frustration, but the ambassador held her tongue. They were guests here, whether they liked it or not. As they crossed the chamber toward their quarters, Amy noticed how other aliens interacted. A large, six-legged creature pushed past a smaller alien, knocking it aside. The smaller alien didn't protest, it just moved away quickly. Near one of the tables, another large alien casually struck a smaller one that had gotten too close. Again, no protest. No reaction. "Captain," Lisa whispered, walking beside Amy. "What kind of place is this?" "A place where might makes right," Ben answered before Amy could. "And they think we're at the bottom of the food chain." They reached their assigned door, and it slid open automatically. The quarters inside were small and plain. 4 bunks, a small table, and nothing else. On Earth, this would be a closet. Helen sat down on one of the bunks and put her head in her hands. "This isn't what I expected." The reports said the council was civilized, advanced. "They are advanced," Amy said. "They're just not civilized the way we thought of it." Ben paced the small room. "So what do we do? Put up with being pushed around? Let them treat us like servants?" "We do what we came here to do," Amy replied. "We represent Earth. We show them that humans deserve respect." "And if they don't respect us?" Lisa asked. Amy didn't answer right away. She was thinking about the push, about the casual violence she had seen in the chamber. She was thinking about her training, about the years she had spent learning to command, to lead, to protect her crew. "Then we teach them to," she finally said. That evening, Helen insisted they attend a reception in the main council hall. It was a chance to meet other species, to make connections before the official vote tomorrow. Amy didn't like the idea, but she understood why it was necessary. The council hall was even bigger than the chamber. Hundreds of aliens filled the space. Music played, though it sounded strange to human ears. The smell was overwhelming. A mixture of scents Amy couldn't identify. They had been there for about an hour when Zekthor appeared. He seemed to have been drinking something, and he walked with more swagger than before. He spotted the humans and moved toward them through the crowd. Other aliens noticed and stopped talking. They turned to watch. Zekthor stopped right in front of Amy. He looked down at her, a smile on his reptilian face. "The human captain," he said loudly. "Still here. Still weak." Before Amy could respond, Zekthor placed his hand on her chest and pushed. Amy stumbled backward, nearly falling. Ben and Lisa moved to help her, but she waved them off. The laughter eventually died down. Zekthor wiped his eyes and looked at Amy with something close to pity. He said something to the other Keltharans in their own language, and they laughed again. Then he turned and walked away, leaving Amy standing in the middle of the watching crowd. Helen rushed over. "Are you okay?" "Fine," Amy said, though her hands were shaking slightly. She forced them to be still. Ben's face was red with anger. "We should file a complaint. That was assault." "One. With who?" Lisa asked quietly. "Did you see anyone else react?" "This is normal here." She was right. As the crowd returned to their conversations, it was clear that what had just happened was not remarkable to them. Just another day in the Galactic Council. Amy led her crew back to their quarters. None of them spoke during the walk. When they got inside, Greg was waiting. He had watched the whole thing on a security feed. "I saw it, Captain," he said. "That was wrong. Wrong by our standards," Amy replied. She sat down on her bunk and finally let out a long breath. "But we're not on Earth anymore." Helen paced the small room. I need to contact Earth. We need new instructions. This culture is completely different from what we were told to expect. The communications delay is 6 hours each way, Ben reminded her. Even if Earth responds immediately, we won't hear back for 12 hours. The council vote is in 8. Then we need to figure this out ourselves, Amy said. Over the next few hours, they reviewed everything they knew about the council species. Greg pulled up files on his tablet, and they studied them together. The Keltharans were a warrior race. They had conquered 12 systems before joining the council. In their culture, physical dominance was everything. Strength was respected. Weakness was despised. But they're not the only species on the council, Lisa pointed out. What about these ones? The Trellic. Administrator Velkon's species. The Trellic were different. They were merchants and administrators, not warriors. But they survived in this council by being useful. They managed things. They kept records. They made themselves necessary. And these, Helen said, pointing to another file. The Brevac. They're even smaller than us. The Brevac were a species that stood only 3 feet tall. They were traders, moving goods between systems. According to the files, they paid tribute to larger species for protection. So that's the system, Ben said slowly. You're either strong enough to take what you want, useful enough to be kept around, or small enough to pay for protection. And humans don't fit any of those categories yet, Amy finished. We're not strong by their standards. We're not useful because they don't know what we can do. And we're too proud to pay tribute. So what do we do? Greg asked. Amy thought about it. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people depending on this mission to succeed. She thought about the resources Earth needed, the technology the Council could provide, the trade routes that could make humanity prosperous. But she also thought about Zekthor's hand on her chest, about the casual violence she had seen everywhere on this station, about the smaller species that flinched away from larger ones. We show them what humans are, she said finally. Tomorrow at the council meeting, we show them that we deserve respect. How? Helen asked. I don't know yet, Amy admitted. But I'll figure something out. They all went to sleep eventually, though none of them slept well. The bunks were uncomfortable, built for alien bodies. Strange sounds echoed through the station. Amy lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to come up with a plan. The next morning, they had breakfast in their quarters. The food provided by the station was nutritious, but bland. Everything tasted like paste. I miss coffee, Lisa said sadly. I miss everything, Greg replied. They got dressed in their formal uniforms. Earth had designed them specially for this mission. Navy blue, with silver trim, with the symbol of Earth on the shoulder. They looked professional and military at the same time. At exactly 9 station time, the door opened. One of the Keltharan guards stood outside. Council meeting begins in 1 hour, the guard said. You will be escorted to the main chamber. They followed the guard through the station. This time, Amy noticed more details. The corridors had markings on the floor, different colors leading to different sections. Aliens moved aside when the Keltharan guard approached. Some moved quickly, others slowly, but they all moved. The guard noticed Amy watching. You see? The strong walk where they wish. The weak make way. This is order. This is bullying, Ben muttered, but quietly enough that only the humans heard. They passed through several large chambers. In one, Amy saw a small alien being cornered by 2 larger ones. The small alien was clearly afraid, but none of the other aliens nearby did anything to help. In another chamber, a large alien took food from a smaller one's plate. The smaller alien just sat there and let it happen. This is wrong, Lisa whispered. This is their normal, Amy replied. But she agreed. It was wrong. They reached the main council chamber. It was enormous, with a high ceiling that seemed to glow with its own light. Seats arranged in a circle rose up in tiers, and most of them were already filled. Aliens of every shape and size sat watching as the humans entered. The guard pointed to a section near the bottom. "You sit there." The seats were small and uncomfortable for humans. Amy sat down, with Helen on her right and Ben on her left. Lisa and Greg sat behind them. "How many species are here?" Helen whispered. "I count 43 different types," Greg said. The chamber filled up over the next few minutes. Finally, a very old-looking alien appeared on a central platform. It moved slowly, supported by some kind of floating device. "I am High Arbiter Kelnva," the alien announced. Its voice was surprisingly strong for something that looked so ancient. "We gather to consider the petition of the species called humans for membership in the council." Several aliens in the chamber made sounds. Amy couldn't tell if they were positive or negative. "The human delegation will present their case," Kelnva continued. Helen stood up. She walked down to the central platform, holding her datapad. She had spent weeks preparing her speech. She talked about Earth, about humanity's achievements, about what humans could offer the Council. She spoke about technology, about culture, about the desire for peaceful cooperation. Her voice was clear and professional, but Amy could see it wasn't working. Many of the aliens weren't even paying attention. Some were having their own conversations. Others looked bored. When Helen finished, there was silence. Then Zekthor stood up in the Keltharan section. "High Arbiter," he said. "I wish to speak." Kelnva gestured for him to continue. "I have observed these humans," Zekthor said. "They are weak. They are small. They have no natural weapons, no natural defenses. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are slow. They have nothing to offer the Council except perhaps labor. I recommend we classify them as a servant species." Murmurs of agreement came from several sections. Helen's face went pale. "That's not what we're here for. We're here as equals." "Equals must prove their worth?" Zekthor replied. "What worth have you shown? Your own captain allowed me to strike her twice, without response. She even asked politely for me to stop. This is weakness." More aliens made sounds of agreement. Amy felt her hands clench into fists. "Perhaps." Another voice called out. It was Velkan, the Trellic administrator. "But humans are unknown to us. Unknown species often surprise us. I recommend we observe them more before making a final decision." "Observe them? As what?" Zekthor challenged. "As guests, they should be assigned to work crews. Let them earn their place." The chamber erupted in debate. Different species argued back and forth. Some seemed sympathetic to humanity. Others agreed with Zekthor. The noise grew louder and louder. Kelnva raised a hand, and the chamber slowly quieted. "This is not a simple matter. We will recess for 2 hours. The Council will consider all perspectives. The humans will remain available for questioning." The meeting broke up. Aliens filed out of the chamber in groups. Amy and her crew stayed in their seats, unsure of what to do. Zekthor led the humans out of the council chamber and through several corridors. The other Keltharans followed behind, blocking any escape route. Amy could feel her crew's tension. Ben kept looking back at the guards. Lisa stayed close to Greg. They entered a large, open area that reminded Amy of a warehouse. Smaller aliens worked here, moving containers and operating machinery. They all stopped working when the Keltharans entered. "This is the service level," Zekthor announced. "This is where species without value work. Soon, this is where humans will work too." A small Brevac alien was passing nearby, carrying a container nearly as big as itself. Zekthor casually reached out and pushed it. The Brevac fell, and the container crashed to the floor, spilling its contents. "You see?" Zekthor said to Amy. "The small ones exist to serve. They know their place. You will learn yours." The Brevac got up slowly, not looking at anyone, and began picking up the spilled items. No one helped. The other workers just watched for a moment, then went back to their own tasks. Amy felt something cold settle in her stomach. This wasn't just a different culture. This was systematic cruelty. And they expected humans to accept it. "We're not here to be servants," Helen said, trying to keep her diplomatic voice steady. "Partners?" One of the other Keltherans laughed. "You have nothing we need." "One. We have ourselves," Amy said quietly. "That should be enough." Zekthor turned to look at her. "Should be? In this galaxy, nothing is given. Everything is taken or earned. You have done neither." He stepped closer to Amy. She had to tilt her head back to look up at him. He was at least 8 feet tall. Maybe taller. His armor made him look even bigger. "Your ambassador talks of peace and cooperation," Zekthor continued. "Pretty words. But words mean nothing here. Only strength matters. Only power. Is that why you keep pushing people around?" Amy asked. "To prove your power? I push aside those who are in my way," Zekthor replied. "Those who are weak. Those who cannot stop me. And if someone could stop you?" Zekthor smiled, showing teeth that looked sharp. "Then I would respect them. But I have not found such a person in many years. Certainly not among your species." The other Keltherans made sounds that might have been laughter. "You should return to your small planet," Zekthor said. "Come back in a few generations. Maybe by then, you will have evolved into something more than prey animals." Behind Amy, Ben made an angry sound. She could feel him tensing, getting ready to do something foolish. She held up her hand slightly, telling him to wait. "We're not prey," Amy said to Zekthor. "And we're not weak. No?" Zekthor reached out and placed his hand on Amy's shoulder. His grip was tight, pushing down. "Then, why do you allow this? Why do you stand there and accept it?" Amy looked at his hand on her shoulder. Then she looked up at his face. When she spoke, her voice was very calm and very clear. "I asked you once before not to hit me. I'm going to ask you one more time. Don't hit me again." The other Keltherans found this hilarious. Their laughter echoed through the service area. Even some of the worker aliens glanced over, curious about what was happening. Zekthor leaned down closer to Amy. "Or what, little human? What will you do?" "I'll show you what prey animals can do," Amy replied. For a moment, Zekthor just stared at her. Then he straightened up and, with his full strength, struck Amy across the face with the back of his hand. The sound echoed through the service area. Amy's head snapped to the side. Blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. The force of the blow would have knocked most humans to the ground. But Amy had been training in combat since she was 12 years old. She had boxed in college. She had studied martial arts. And most importantly, she had been in real fights. She knew how to take a hit. She turned her head slowly back to face Zekthor. She worked her jaw from side to side, testing it. Then she spit blood onto the floor. "All right then," she said quietly. What happened next took less than 3 seconds, but to everyone watching, it seemed to happen in slow motion. Amy's right fist drove forward into Zekthor's midsection, right below his armor. She put her whole body into the punch, using her legs, her hips, her shoulder, every bit of force she could generate. The impact made a sound like someone hitting a drum. All the air exploded out of Zekthor's lungs. His eyes went wide with shock and pain. He started to bend forward, trying to breathe. Amy was already moving. As Zekthor's head came down, Amy's knee came up. It connected with his face, with a crack that made several nearby aliens flinch. Zekthor, the great Keltheran warrior, the commander who had never lost a fight, dropped to the floor. His body hit the ground hard. Blood spread from his nose across the floor. He didn't move. The service area had gone completely silent. Every alien had stopped working. They all stared at the scene. The small human female, standing over the unconscious Keltharan warrior. The other Keltharan guards stood frozen, unable to process what they had just seen. Their commander, their strongest fighter, was lying on the ground, knocked out by a creature a third his size. Amy stood perfectly still, her hands at her sides. Her breath was steady. Blood still showed at the corner of her mouth. She looked at each of the Keltheran guards in turn. "I warned him," she said clearly. "Twice." Ben moved to stand beside Amy, ready to fight if needed. Lisa and Greg did the same. They formed a line, protecting their captain. One of the Keltharan guards reached for his weapon. Before he could draw it, a voice called out, "Stop." Administrator Velkan appeared from a side corridor. He moved quickly for someone his size, his multiple eyes focused on the scene. "No one moves," Velkan ordered. "No one acts." The Keltheran guard hesitated but kept his hand on his weapon. "The human attacked our commander." "After he struck her," Velkan replied. "He is Keltheran. She is nothing. She has no right to defend herself." "She has every right," another voice said. High Arbiter Kelnva appeared, floating on his device. Several other council members followed behind him. They had all been watching from somewhere. Kelnva moved closer to the scene. He looked at Zekthor's unconscious form, then at Amy. "The human gave warning," Kelnva said slowly. "Twice. By our own laws, by the laws this council established centuries ago, self-defense after clear warning is permitted. Commander Zekthor initiated unwanted combat. He lost. The matter is closed. But she is human," the Keltheran guard protested. "They are not even council members. Council member or not, the law applies to all on this station," Kelnva replied firmly. "Would you argue with council law?" The guard looked at his fellow Keltherans. None of them spoke. Finally, he removed his hand from his weapon. "Tend to your commander," Kelnva ordered. "Take him to medical facilities." Two of the guards moved forward carefully, watching Amy as if she might attack them too. They picked up Zekthor and carried him away. The other guards followed, looking back several times. When they were gone, Kelnva turned to Amy. "That was foolish, Captain Martinez." "Probably," Amy agreed. "But necessary. You have made enemies today." "I made enemies the moment we arrived," Amy replied. "The only difference is, now they know we're not defenseless." Kelnva made a sound that might have been approval. "Perhaps. We shall see." He floated away, followed by most of the other council members. But several remained, watching the humans with new interest. Velkan approached Amy. "Your hand," he said. Amy looked down. Her right hand was already swelling. The knuckles looked wrong. "It is broken," Velkan stated. "You should have it treated." "Later," Amy said. Helen finally found her voice. "Captain, what have you done?" "What needed to be done," Amy replied. She looked around the service area. All the worker aliens were still watching. The small Brevok that Zekthor had pushed earlier stood nearby, staring at Amy with something like wonder in its eyes. "You stood up to him," the Brevok said in a small voice. "You actually stood up to him." "Yes," Amy said simply. "But you are not large. You are not strong." "I am strong," Amy interrupted. "Maybe not the same way as the Keltherans. But I'm strong enough." She looked around at all the watching aliens. "And any human is strong enough to defend themselves." That's what I wanted to show. Not just to the Keltherans. To everyone. Word spread through the station in minutes. Within an hour, every species knew what had happened. The human captain had dropped a Keltheran warrior with her bare hands. The footage from the security cameras was shared and reshared. Aliens who had never heard of humans before now knew exactly who they were. Back in their quarters, Greg examined Amy's hand. "It's definitely broken. You need proper medical care." "I know," Amy said. "But not yet. Not until after the council vote." "The vote might not happen," Helen said. She sat on her bunk, looking worried. "They might expel us for what you did." "Then we'll leave," Amy replied. "But we'll leave with our dignity. No one will ever push." The council chamber was more crowded than before. Every seat was filled, and some aliens stood in the back. News of what happened had spread across the entire station, and everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Amy walked in with her crew, her right hand wrapped in a temporary bandage that Greg had made. The pain was constant now, but she kept her face calm. She would not show weakness here. As they took their seats, Amy noticed how different the atmosphere was. Before, aliens had ignored the humans, or looked at them with contempt. Now, they watched with caution, with curiosity, and in some cases, with respect. The Keltharan section was notably quieter than before. Zekthor was not there. Amy learned later that he was in the medical facility, with a broken nose and a severe concussion. The other Keltharans sat stiffly, their faces showing barely controlled anger. High Arbiter Kelnva took his position on the central platform. The chamber fell silent immediately. We reconvened to address the matter of human membership. Kelnva began. But first, we must address what occurred during our recess. He gestured toward Amy. Captain Martinez, please stand. Amy stood, keeping her injured hand at her side. You struck a Keltharan warrior, Kelnva stated. You caused serious injury. What do you say to this? I defended myself, Amy replied clearly, after giving fair warning. Twice. The human lies, one of the Keltharans shouted from their section. Our commander was simply demonstrating our superiority. She attacked without cause. There are recordings, Velkan spoke up, from multiple security cameras. They show the complete incident. Shall we review them? The Keltharan who had spoken sat down, saying nothing more. Kelnva continued. The recordings show that Captain Martinez gave clear verbal warning before Commander Zekthor struck her, under council law, specifically the self-defense provision of the Third Accord. Any being has the right to defend themselves after providing clear warning. Captain Martinez acted within the law. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some aliens seemed surprised. Others nodded in agreement. However, Kelnva raised his hand for silence. This incident raises a larger question. It reveals a practice that has become common on this station, yet violates the spirit of our laws. Physical intimidation, casual violence, the strong abusing the weak without consequence. The chamber grew very quiet. When this council was formed, Kelnva continued, his old voice strong, it was meant to be a place where all species could gather as equals, not where the strong dominate the weak. We have strayed from that purpose. This incident has reminded us of what we have become. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of different species. The humans are new to us. They do not understand our ways. But perhaps that is good. Perhaps we need those who see our faults clearly. A small alien in the back section stood up. It was a Brevac, the same species Amy had seen being pushed earlier. High Arbiter, the Brevac said nervously. May I speak? Kelnva nodded. You may. I have served on this station for 6 years, the Brevac said, its voice shaking slightly. Every day, I am pushed, struck, insulted. My goods are taken without payment. I complain to no one because I know nothing will change. But today, I saw a human stand up to a Keltharan. I saw her defend herself. And I thought, maybe things can change. Other small aliens in the chamber made sounds of agreement. The larger species shifted uncomfortably. Another voice spoke up. It was a delegate from a species Amy didn't recognize. Medium-sized with blue-green skin. My people pay tribute to 3 different warrior species for the right to trade safely, the delegate said. We are not weak. We have advanced technology and strong ships. But we pay because that is how things work here. When we joined the council, we thought we would find protection and fairness. Instead, we found a different kind of empire. More voices joined in. Species that Amy had thought were comfortable in the council structure spoke about their frustrations, their fear, their anger at how things worked. The Keltharan section grew more agitated. Finally, one of them stood. These are lies, the Keltharan declared. We maintain order. We ensure peace. The weak need the strong to guide them. Guide or control? Amy asked, her voice carrying through the chamber. The Keltharan turned to look at her. What would you know of it, human? You have been here less than a day. Long enough to see the truth, Amy replied. Where I come from, we had people like you. People who used strength to control others. We called them bullies. We called them tyrants. And we stopped them. Asen. Wenner body way. Wenner reason. We not. Are 40. We not. You dare. I dare, Amy interrupted, standing up fully now. Because someone has to. You say the strong. Guide the weak. But that's not guidance. That's domination. And humans don't accept it. Not for ourselves. And not for anyone else. Helen tugged on Amy's uniform, trying to get her to sit down. This was not diplomatic. This was not what they had planned. But Amy kept talking. Look around this chamber. Look at all the species represented here. Most of them are afraid. They're afraid of being pushed, hit, dominated. They're afraid to speak up because they know what will happen if they do. Is that what the council is supposed to be? Kelnva watched Amy with his ancient eyes. What would you have us be, Captain Martinez? Better, Amy said simply. A place where species are judged by their achievements, their ideas, their contributions, not by how hard they can hit. Idealistic words. The Keltharan scoffed. The galaxy does not work that way. Then maybe it should, Amy replied. She looked at all the assembled aliens. Earth wants to join this council. We have technology to share. Knowledge. Resources. But we won't join if it means becoming servants or paying tribute or living in fear. We're offering partnership as equals. Take it or leave it. 2 p.m. Helen looked like she wanted to disappear. This was the opposite of careful diplomacy. Amy was basically challenging the entire council. But then something unexpected happened. The Brevok who had spoken earlier stood up again. I vote yes. Humans should join the council. As full members. As equals. Other small species began standing. One by one, they voiced their agreement. The medium-sized species followed. Even some of the larger species stood, though more cautiously. The Keltharans remained seated, their faces dark with anger. Kelnva raised his hand. We will now conduct a formal vote. All in favor of granting humanity full council membership. Indicate. Now. Lights appeared throughout the chamber as species cast their votes. Amy watched, barely breathing. More lights appeared. More and more. When the counting finished, Velkan announced the results. 31 species vote in favor. 8 vote against. 4 abstain. The measure passes. The chamber erupted in sound. Some aliens cheered. Others argued. The Keltharans stood and walked out as a group, making their displeasure clear. Amy sat down slowly, suddenly aware of how tired she was. Helen leaned over. You just gambled with Earth's entire future, Helen said. I know, Amy replied. It worked, Helen added, a small smile appearing. Ben clapped Amy on the shoulder, carefully avoiding her injured hand. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Probably both, Amy admitted. Velkan approached their section. Captain Martinez, the High Arbiter requests a private meeting with you. Amy followed Velkan to a smaller chamber off the main hall. Kelnva waited there, along with several other senior council members. You have caused quite the disruption, Captain, Kelnva said, though his tone wasn't angry. I apologize if I overstepped, Amy replied, though she didn't sound very sorry. Do not apologize, Kelnva said. You spoke truth. Uncomfortable truth. But truth, nonetheless. This council has grown complacent. We have allowed practices that contradict our founding principles. Your actions today, both in defending yourself and in speaking plainly, have reminded us of what we should be." He paused. "However, you have also made powerful enemies. The Keltherans will not forget this day. Neither will their allies." "I understand," Amy said. "Do you?" Kelnva leaned forward. "They will test you. Test all humans. They will look for weakness, for opportunities to prove that your victory today was luck." "We will be," Amy promised. Another council member spoke up. "There is also opportunity here. Many species have approached us since the vote. They wish to establish relations with Earth, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. Some even ask for defense pacts." Amy blinked. "Defense pacts? We just joined. We don't even have proper military ships yet." "They do not want your ships," the council member explained. "They want your example. They want the courage you showed today. The willingness to stand up to bullies." Velkan made a sound that might have been amusement. "Congratulations, Captain Martinez. In one day, you have made humanity both the most popular and the most controversial species in the Council." "That was not my intention," Amy said honestly. "Perhaps not," Kelnva replied. "But it is the result. Now you must decide what humanity will do with this position. Will you be warriors like the Keltherans? Merchants like the Trellick? Or something new?" Amy thought about Earth, about human history, about all the struggles and mistakes and triumphs that had brought them to this point. "Something new," she said finally. "We'll be humans. Nothing more, nothing less." Kelnva made an approving sound. "I look forward to seeing what that means." The meeting ended, and Amy returned to her crew. They were celebrating quietly in their quarters, though their celebration was limited to the bland paste food the station provided. "Earth is going to receive our report in about 6 hours, Helen said. "I have no idea how to explain what happened here." "Tell them the truth," Amy suggested. "We came looking for respect. We got it. Just not the way we expected." Her hand throbbed. Greg insisted on taking her to the medical facility. A Trellick doctor examined it and confirmed it was broken in 3 places. "You hit something very hard," the doctor observed while setting the bones. "Very hard and very thick-headed," Amy agreed. The doctor made a sound that might have been laughter. "I saw the recording. All of us did. You have become quite famous, Captain Martinez." "I didn't want to be famous," Amy said. "I just wanted them to stop hitting me." "And they will," the doctor replied, applying a specialized healing device to her hand. "Everyone will. Word has spread beyond this station. Across many systems, the human who dropped a Keltheran warrior, the captain who demanded respect and took it when it was not given." The doctor finished his work and stepped back. "Your hand will heal in 3 days with this device. Keep it on at all times." As Amy left the medical facility, she noticed something different. Aliens in the corridor moved aside to let her pass. Not out of fear, exactly, but out of respect. Some nodded to her. A few even spoke greetings. A Brevac approached her carefully. "Captain Martinez, I wanted to thank you." "For what?" Amy asked. "For showing us that we do not have to accept how things are," the Brevac said. "Today, when a Keltheran tried to push me, I said the words. I told them not to hit me again. And?" Amy prompted. "And they did not," the Brevac replied, wonder in its voice. 3 weeks had passed since Amy knocked out Commander Zekthor. In that time, the station had changed in ways no one expected. The humans had been moved from the servant quarters to proper diplomatic accommodations on the middle levels. Their rooms were larger, cleaner, and actually had windows that looked out at space. It was a small thing, but symbolic. Amy walked through the main market district with Lisa, observing how things had shifted. The smaller species no longer moved aside automatically when larger ones approached. Some still did, out of habit. But many held their ground. The larger species, in turn, had become more careful about pushing past others. It's weird, Lisa said. It's like everyone is learning new rules. They're learning old rules, Amy corrected. The ones that were supposed to apply all along. Respect, personal space, basic courtesy. They passed a group of Brevac merchants setting up a stall. One of them saw Amy and waved enthusiastically. Amy waved back. You're kind of famous now, Lisa observed. I noticed, Amy said dryly. It was true. Everywhere Amy went on the station, aliens recognized her. Some asked for advice. Others wanted to share their own stories of standing up to bullies. A few species had even started studying human combat techniques, curious about how such a small species could be so effective in a fight. Earth had responded to their reports with shock, followed by cautious approval. More human ships were on their way, bringing diplomats, traders, and scientists. Humanity was officially part of the galactic community now, and they were making the most of it. Back in the diplomatic quarters, Helen was meeting with representatives from 6 different species. They all wanted trade agreements with Earth. Greg was helping her navigate the complex negotiations. They're offering us access to their mining technology, Helen explained to Amy when she arrived. In exchange for our agricultural methods. Apparently, our crop rotation systems are more efficient than theirs. That's good, right? Amy asked. It's excellent, Helen replied, smiling. We're building relationships. Real partnerships. Not based on fear or tribute. Ben entered with a tablet. Captain, you need to see this. It's from Zekthor. Amy took the tablet. The message was short. Commander Zekthor requests a meeting with Captain Martinez. Private. In Training Facility 7. Today, if possible. It's a trap, Ben said immediately. Maybe, Amy agreed. Or maybe not. Only one way to find out. You're not going alone, Ben insisted. I wasn't planning to, Amy said. But if it is a trap, I want you and Lisa ready to get everyone else off the station. Captain, that's an order, Ben. An hour later, Amy walked into Training Facility 7. It was a large open space with padded floors and various equipment that reminded Amy of a gym. Zekthor waited in the center, wearing simple training clothes instead of his armor. His face had healed, but his nose was still slightly crooked. It would probably always be crooked now. A permanent reminder of their encounter. Amy stopped a few meters away, keeping her distance. Her hand had healed, thanks to the alien medical technology. But she remained cautious. Captain Martinez, Zekthor said formally. Commander Zekthor, Amy replied. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Zekthor did something Amy didn't expect. He bowed his head slightly. I came to apologize, he said. Amy blinked. You what? I came to apologize, Zekthor repeated. For my behavior when you arrived. For striking you. For treating you and your species with disrespect. Amy didn't know what to say. Of all the things she had expected, this wasn't one of them. Zekthor continued. In my culture, strength is everything. The strong lead, the weak follow. This has been our way for thousands of years, but what you showed me is that I did not understand strength correctly. He gestured to his face. You defeated me easily, but that is not what taught me. What taught me was that you gave warning. Twice. You could have attacked immediately when I first pushed you, but you chose to give me chances to stop. That is a different kind of strength. The strength to control yourself. The strength to show mercy, even when you have power. Amy relaxed slightly. This was genuine. In human culture, we have a saying, might doesn't make right. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. This is a difficult concept for my people, Zekthor admitted. We have always believed the opposite. But watching what has happened since our encounter, I see the value in your way. Smaller species no longer fear to walk the corridors. Trade is actually increasing because merchants feel safer. The station is more peaceful than it has been in years. He looked at Amy directly. You changed things by defending yourself, by showing that the strong can be stopped. And you changed things more by being willing to talk afterward, to explain, to teach. You could have made an enemy of all Keltherans. Instead, you made us think. Are your people angry with you? Amy asked. For coming here? Some are, Zekthor said. Others are curious. We are a warrior culture. But we are not stupid. We see that the galaxy is changing. If we do not change with it, we will be left behind. He paused. I came here with a request. I want to learn from you. From humans. I want to understand your combat techniques. Yes. But also your philosophy. How you balance strength with restraint. How you fight when necessary but seek peace when possible. Amy thought about it. This could be the beginning of something important. A bridge between two very different cultures. All right, she said. But I have conditions. Name them. First, you apologize publicly to everyone you've mistreated on this station. Second, you work with the council to create actual rules against physical intimidation. And third, you convince other Keltherans to follow your example. Though, end quote, Zekthor considered this. The first two I can do. Then start with those who aren't, Amy suggested. Change happens slowly, but it happens. Zekthor nodded. Agreed. Tomorrow, Amy said. Bring anyone who wants to learn. I'll bring some of my crew. They shook hands, human style. Zekthor's grip was careful. Controlled. He was learning already. As Amy left the training facility, she found Ben and Lisa waiting outside, looking worried. We were about to come in after you, Ben admitted. It's fine, Amy said. Better than fine, actually. She explained what had happened. Lisa looked skeptical. You really think he's changed? I think he's trying, Amy replied. That's enough for now. Over the following days, Amy began teaching combat classes in the training facility. Zekthor attended every session, along with 3 other Keltherans and a surprising mix of other species. She taught them human fighting techniques, but more importantly, she taught them human philosophy. Fighting should always be the last option, she explained during one session. But when you do fight, fight smart. Use your opponent's strength against them. Stay calm. Stay controlled. A small alien asked a question. But how do you stay calm when someone bigger is attacking you? Practice, Amy said. And confidence. You have to believe you can defend yourself. Because once you believe it, others will believe it too. The classes became popular. Soon, Amy had to run multiple sessions to accommodate everyone who wanted to learn. Other humans from the newly arrived ships joined as instructors. It became a cultural exchange, with humans learning about alien combat styles and aliens learning about human techniques. The council took notice. Kelnva visited one of the classes and watched with approval. This is what the council should be, he told Amy afterward. Different species learning from each other. Growing together. Changes continued throughout the station. The council passed new regulations about physical conduct. Disputes were now supposed to be settled through arbitration, not violence. It wasn't perfect, and not everyone followed the rules, but it was progress. Amy received a message from Earth. Her report had been shared with the media back home. She was being called a hero. There were already movies being planned about what had happened. I'm not a hero, Amy told Helen. I just defended myself. Sometimes that's all it takes, Helen replied. One person standing up. It gives others the courage to stand up too. The words that Amy had spoken, "Don't hit me again," had become something of a motto throughout the station. Aliens used it not just as a warning, but as a declaration, a statement that they would not accept mistreatment anymore. One evening, Amy stood at the viewport in her quarters, looking out at the stars. The station was peaceful tonight. Ships came and went, carrying goods and people between worlds. It looked almost normal now. Ben joined her with 2 cups of something that almost tasted like coffee. It was an alien beverage that Greg had found. And while it wasn't quite right, it was close enough. "What are you thinking about?" Ben asked. "About how strange this all is," Amy said. "We came here expecting to beg for acceptance. Instead, we ended up changing the whole system." "You changed it," Ben corrected, "by standing up when it mattered." "It wasn't just me," Amy said. "It was everyone who followed. All those smaller species who found their courage. Zekthor and the other Keltherans who decided to change. Even the council members who enforced the rules fairly." She sipped her almost coffee. "Change is hard, but it's possible. That's what we proved. So, what's next for you, Captain?" Amy smiled. "Earth wants me to stay here as a permanent representative. Help continue the cultural exchange. Build relationships. Are you going to?" "I think so," Amy said. "There's still work to do. Still minds to change. But I think we're heading in the right direction." A message appeared on Amy's tablet. It was from a species called the Vorn, one she hadn't heard of before. They were from a distant system and had just heard about what happened with the Keltherans. They wanted to meet with humans. They had been afraid to join the council before, thinking they were too weak. But now they thought maybe things were different. "See?" Amy showed the message to Ben. "It's spreading. Word is getting out that the council is changing. That the strong don't automatically rule anymore. All because you dropped one warrior on the ground," Ben said with a smile. "All because I told them not to hit me again," Amy corrected. And then, followed through, when they didn't listen. They stood together at the viewport, watching the stars and the busy station around them. Ships from dozens of species docked and departed. Aliens of every size and shape moved through the corridors, no longer in strict hierarchy but as equals. It wasn't perfect. There were still incidents, still problems, still species that clung to the old ways. But it was better. And it was getting better every day. 3 months later, Amy attended another council meeting. This time, 5 new species were being considered for membership. All of them had heard about the changes on the station. All of them wanted to be part of something better. The vote was unanimous. All 5 were accepted. After the meeting, Velkan approached Amy. "You have done something remarkable, Captain. Not just for humans, but for all of us." "I just defended myself," Amy said. The same thing she always said. "And in doing so, you reminded us of what we should have been all along," Velkan replied. "A council of equals, not a hierarchy of the strong over the weak." That evening, Amy gathered her crew together. More humans had arrived, and their section of the station had grown into a proper embassy. But Amy still met with her original crew regularly. "Earth wants to expand our presence here," she told them. "More diplomats, more traders, more cultural ambassadors. They're offering me a promotion. Admiral. I'd oversee all human operations in this sector." "That's amazing," Helen said. Amy looked at her crew, her friends. "Only if you all come with me. I'm not doing this without the people who were there from the beginning." They all agreed immediately. They had started this journey together. They would continue it together. Lisa raised her cup in a toast. "To Captain Martinez, who taught the galaxy that humans don't back down." Greg added. "To the bravest person I know," Helen offered her own words. "To changing the galaxy, one punch at a time," Ben smiled. "To keeping promises, even when they're hard." Amy raised her own cup. "To all of us, to humanity, and to anyone, anywhere, who's ever been pushed around and decided they'd had enough." They drank together as the station hummed with life around them. Humans and aliens working side by side, learning from each other, building something new. And somewhere in the training facility, Zekthor taught a class to young Keltharans, showing them not just how to fight, but when not to. Teaching them that true strength includes knowing when to stop, when to show mercy, when to give warning. The words had become legendary across multiple systems now. 4 simple words that had changed everything. Don't hit me again. It was a warning, a declaration, a promise. And throughout the galaxy, more and more beings were learning what humanity had known all along. Some people you can push, some people will let you. But when someone tells you not to hit them again, you should listen. Because if you don't, you might just end up on the ground, looking up at someone you underestimated, learning the hard way that size and strength aren't everything. Sometimes the smallest person in the room is the strongest. And sometimes, all it takes to change the world is one person willing to stand up and say no. Amy Martinez had said no. And the galaxy had listened. That was just the beginning of humanity's story among the stars. But it was a good beginning. One that would be remembered for generations. The human captain who stood her ground, who gave fair warning, who proved that respect cannot be taken by force. It must be earned. And humanity had earned it. US walked around me instead. More aliens had similar stories. A merchant who had always paid tribute refused to pay today, and the warriors accepted it. A small species stood up to a larger one, and was not struck down. Slowly, cautiously, things were beginning to change. That evening, Amy stood at a viewport in their quarters, looking out at the stars. Ben joined her. "Quite a first day," he said. "Quite a first day," Amy agreed. "What happens tomorrow?" Amy smiled slightly. "Tomorrow, we start showing them what humanity really means." Tan's around again. "Not on this station," Ben smiled. "That was one hell of a punch, Captain." "It was a terrible punch," Amy corrected. "That's why my hand is broken." "But it worked." Lisa looked at the door. "What happens now?" Before anyone could answer, the door opened. Velkan stood outside. "The council is reconvening," he said. "In 1 hour. Your presence is required." "For what?" Helen asked. "For your vote," Velkan replied. Something in his multiple eyes might have been respect. "It seems you humans have made quite an impression." Dumb. 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 Helen came back up to join them. She looked defeated. "I failed. My speech meant nothing to them." "You did great," Amy told her. "But words don't matter much here. Only strength does." "Then what do we do?" Helen asked. Before Amy could answer, Zekthor appeared at the end of their row. He wasn't alone. 5 other Keltharans stood with him. "Come, humans," he said. "Let me show you what your place will be." Amy stood up slowly. "And what place is that?" "Below everyone else," Zekthor said with a smile. "Where the weak belong." The hall had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. Amy straightened up. She looked around at all the aliens watching them. Then, she looked up at Zekthor. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "I'm going to ask you politely not to hit me again." For a moment, Zekthor just stared at her. Then he threw his head back and laughed. Other Keltharans in the crowd laughed with him. Some of the other species joined in. To them, the tiny human female warning the great warrior commander was the funniest thing they had heard all day. But Amy wasn't laughing. She stood perfectly still, her eyes locked on Zekthor, waiting to see what he would do next.